Just heading into fall camp and you taking sort of the things that you learned about your position group in the spring, what's kind of the major emphasis overall for this defense? And then aside from that, like your position group as well that you're trying to bring into these next few weeks of practice?
You know, the number one thing emphasis as defense is get these guys to play as hard as they possibly can. And we showed some, I think, some moments of that in the spring, but to do that consistently over a long period of time. If we can get whoever's on the field, the 11 guys on the field, to play as hard as they can. And I know that's cliche and everybody says that and yada yada, but it's really true because we're not always going to be in the perfect call. Does that make sense? Offenses are going to make plays, but in our experience, when you get 11 guys playing hard for a full game, more good things are going to happen for your defense than happen for the offense. You know what I mean? Tip balls, overthrows, fumbles, fumble recoveries, the whole 9 yards, eliminating explosive plays. And then from there, it's really developing a great baseline on the fundamentals of our defense, whether it's coverages, the pressures, the checks we have. You know, we're not going to do a million things. Becoming very good and consistent at those, as opposed to trying to be a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. When you look at how ASU played defense last season, where the linebackers didn't really blitz much, they're mostly in coverage. Is it like what's the type of feeling that you get from the guys that are kind of like chomping at the bit to go hunt the quarterback after playing in that scheme last season?
You know, I don't really touch on the past a whole lot because there was a lot of people that put a lot of time and energy into that, and we're, I think, giving their best. I can just say that we're going to continue to put the players that we feel like are the best players in the best position to make plays. You know what I mean? So that might change game by game depending on the offensive strengths or weaknesses, what our guys are doing well, injuries, the whole 9 yards. Again, that goes back to what you just asked me, like, keep it simple, let the guys really master things, and then let them play really fast. And that goes into pressuring too. Because if the guys are playing on their toes and attacking, you got a lot more chances to make plays as opposed to being on your heels and being uncertain.
Yeah. How do you feel just about the depth that you have at those positions, and also kind of the culture that you want to foster in the room? How's that coming together?
I really like the direction the culture's going. Like, I really like the summer the guys had. I've always tried to create a group that not just operates but excels when I'm not there every day. And first of all, Coach Conley and Gabby did a great job in developing the guys physically this summer. And then from there, like, they really took the bull by the horns, and whether it was individual things they need to get better at or group things. So I'm excited to get them out there, and the best thing that I've always tried to create in the groups is number one, they play hard, number two, competition. And we've added another piece in Jawan, and I think that's going to continue to add to the competition that was going on this spring.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about your linebackers playing in this scheme, and what do you think? Why does it cater to their skill sets?
That's a really good question. Favorite part is just how they have to be the quarterbacks on our defense. They have to be the communicators, whether it's the calls, the checks. They have to help get guys lined up, if that makes sense. But they don't have to make every play. They've got to be able to trust the guys in front of them, the guys outside of them, the guys behind them. That's a group effort to do those, but they have to take a large part in moving the group along, you know, and getting everybody to go in the right direction. So I love that pressure of, hey, we need to close this way. We need to see this check. We need to understand this tendency. But we don't make every play, but we're going to celebrate everybody's success when we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
How do you kind of preach to them what that type of communication looks like, or what it needs to look like?
Well, we've been very blessed, you know, with Trey here, who was with us at Washington State. We've got a guy that saw what it looks like and understands what the expectation is. So I'm really blessed as a coach to have a guy in the room that, whether we're in the room, whether on the field, whether in the locker room, that gives them an example of what it's supposed to be like. And that's what Trey, one of the things he does really well. He is extremely vocal, does a great job communicating things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he sets a really good bar, and you could already see the rest of the group starting to catch up to that, which is really cool to see those guys now communicate formations, backfield sets, checks, making sure the D-line's on the same page. When we can give our defensive line or our back end the confidence to know that we're in the right thing and there's a calmness, man, guys really, they come out of their shoes and they play really aggressively. So it's cool to see what Trey's established as, hey, this is what we want, and to see the group really, I think, try to follow along with it.
Yeah, after nearly, 8 months with the team now, who do you feel like your leaders are on the defense? Do you have an idea of, like, kind of who's going to be setting the tone?
I mean, I think there's a group. When you look at each position group, I think there's at least 1 to 2 and maybe sometimes 3 guys that sometimes leadership is defined as vocal, but there's some guys that don't say a whole lot that work extremely hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this fall camp's really going to need to show that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to say spring ball is easy, but when you practice every other day and the weather's nice, like this fall camp, we will put these guys through the fire. You know what I mean? And so I'm excited to see those leaders in each group. At the backer group, obviously Trey's one. I see a bunch of guys just developing in different ways, whether it's guys that are leading by example, guys with a ton of experience. So I'm excited to see those guys continue to step up, and ultimately they're going to select who the leaders are. Like on good teams, the coaches don't go say, "Hey, you're the leader, you're the leader." For good teams, the players really step forward and say, "Hey, these are the men that are going to lead us moving forward." If that makes sense.
Yeah. Ceiling might be the wrong term to put it, but if everything goes right with just the integration of the scheme and the players getting it and executing it on the field, what do you think the ceiling is for this defense and the type of production and numbers that you guys can put up?
That's another good question. So I'll throw it back to coaches speak. I'm just worried about practice one in Southern Utah. I mean, listen, we've got there's some talent there. There's some, but there's some things that we have to coach better and the players have to do better. And we spent a lot of time going through that stuff this summer. I think ultimately we've got to wait till see what happens on Saturday. You know what I mean? I could throw out a big protection, or I could say, hey, we're going to be awful and set the expectation low. I'm always a guy who's like, hey, let's show up on Saturdays and see what it looks like and go from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.